It is a fact that there are many violent crimes that are committed every single year right here in the state of Arkansas by violent illegal immigrants. And on the economic front, any job that is performed by an illegal immigrant is, by definition, a job that is taken away from an American citizen. They suppress our wages, they take away our jobs in manufacturing and agriculture, and without a strong border, we're never going to get a hold of our problem of illegal immigration. So I will never apologize for being against illegal immigration because I understand the threat that illegal immigration poses, not just to American citizens and American jobs, but to American families.
Former Arkansas Razorback, New England Patriots defensive lineman, and 101st Airborne veteran Jake Bequette will challenge Arkansas Senator John Boozman in next year's Republican primary. Boozman was reelected in 2016 and won the endorsement of Donald Trump earlier this year. During his campaign announcement, Bequette detailed he is pro-life, pro-police, a God-fearing Christian, and is sick and tired of the media constantly lying to us. To talk more about his Senate campaign run, Jake Bequette joins us now. Jake, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Buck. Good to be with you.
So going from playing pro football to enrolling in the U.S. Army, it's quite a move. Why'd you make it?
Well, I felt called to do it. My last couple of years in New England, I started to feel the call to serve our country in uniform, and that's exactly what I did when my playing career ended. I enlisted in the Army, commissioned as an infantry lieutenant, volunteered and graduated from the U.S. Army Ranger School and deployed to Iraq with the 101st Airborne Division. And that was truly the honor of my life, was to serve our country in uniform. And look, I'm an outsider. I mean, this Senate campaign, I don't come from a political background. I'm not from the establishment. I'm an athlete. I'm a soldier. I'm a leader. And I think we need more young, bold, dynamic difference makers in Washington.
So Boozman's a fairly conservative opponent you're going to be facing off against. Where do you think he has come up short? I mean, what are the differences between you? And if you were elected, how would you differentiate yourself from his record?
Well, I respect Senator Boozman's many years of service, but look, he's been in Washington for over 20 years. He's working on his third decade in Washington. I think it's time for a change, and I just think his record is too liberal. He's voted for budgets that fully funded Planned Parenthood, that raised our taxes, that have exploded our national debt. He's made some very critical statements about President Trump's immigration policies, and he's even supported, somewhat radical policies like renaming our military bases. Look, I think that's out of touch with Arkansas values, and look, I just think it's time for a change.
You founded the Arkansas Fund, which has helped small businesses succeed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Tell us about that. How has the progress been since announcing?
Well, one of the first things I did when I moved home to Arkansas after my term of service in the Army was over was I started this nonprofit small business relief fund. I was inspired by the Barstool Fund, founded by Dave Portnoy. He's a New England guy, Patriots guy, and he helped a small business in Arkansas, as close to my home here in Little Rock. And I just thought to myself, hey, if Dave Portnoy and the Barstool Fund can help an Arkansas small business, why can't I help an Arkansas small business? And so that's what I did. We traveled all over the state. We raised a bunch of money, got it into the hands of several dozen Arkansas small businesses, really mom and pop small businesses that have been really impacted by COVID and were really struggling with the pandemic. And so I think it was a great project, and it really helped me to go around the state and understand some of the plight that some of these small businessmen and women and their employees have gone through due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the suppression of our economy.
You're not far from the border there. If you were to become the senator, what would be your approach to the U.S.-Mexico border? It's obviously, under the Biden administration, the most open and the most lawless it's been in years, likely decades, perhaps ever. What do you think needs to be done, and what kind of legislation would you want to pass in order to secure our southern border and handle the immigration issue more broadly?
Well, coming from a military background, I believe the southern border, it's a key part to securing this country and to protecting us. And that's what I want to do in the U.S. Senate, is help protect this country. Look, generations of career politicians in both parties have traded promises of border security in exchange for amnesty. Okay, that has been a complete failure. We're living with those consequences today. Look, in Washington, I will never stop fighting to secure our border. We have a legitimate crisis. We have tens of millions of illegal immigrants who have entered this country over the past 40 years. It's totally unacceptable. It's out of control, and it has to change. And the current voices in Washington just haven't gotten it done.
Right now, the Senate Democrats are considering a $3.5 trillion plus another $600 billion of what they're calling infrastructure, but a massive spending package. What do you think it's going to take for the American people to, and let me step back for a second. What's it going to take for the representatives of the American people on the right to take the budget and the debt seriously?
Well, I think we're seeing the consequences of those policies today. We're already seeing inflation begin to spike out of control, and nothing demoralizes a country like hyperinflation. I hope we don't see it here, but I think we're on the way to it. Look, these are all the consequences of these radical leftist policies that have been implemented by Joe Biden since the beginning of his administration. Look, it's totally out of control, and we have to get it, back reined in. I think the American people understand that these infrastructure plans, so-called infrastructure pieces of legislation, these are Trojan horses for liberal wish lists like the Green New Deal. Look, only a very small percentage of these pieces of legislation, of the funding within them, actually goes towards infrastructure, roads, bridges, waterways. Look, I'm all for fixing those things and improving them, but I'm not going to pull the classic establishment Republican move of being hoodwinked by promises of a bipartisan infrastructure plan when really it's just a liberal wish list.
Right now, the people of Cuba are struggling against a repressive communist regime trying to shut down their protests and their cries for liberty. The mayor of Miami, Mayor Suarez, said that he thought that there should at least be a consideration of airstrikes, U.S. airstrikes in Cuba to punish the regime and to help the anti-regime elements on the ground. Somebody who served the military in Iraq and has dealt with armed intervention on behalf of the United States government before at the direction of the United States government. What do you think is the right move for Cuba? What should the U.S. response be? Put aside for a second that Biden and the Democrats are sympathetic to commies. What should we do?
Well, you're exactly right. It's pretty disgraceful to see the Democrats and the radical left seem to be sympathizing with the Marxist regime. You saw BLM essentially endorsing the Cuban government, blaming the U.S. for Cuba's failures. But look, I think our experiences in the Middle East and Iraq and Afghanistan have shown that, look, we don't want to be engaged in nation building. I think all options should be on the table in terms of a Cuban response, but our focus should be on protecting the citizens of Cuba who want to live free. I think there's bipartisan support for that, except for the radical left fringe. And look, I just think it's disgraceful that the Democrats, look, they support open borders for people from Central America and Mexico who tend to be left-leaning future Democrat voters. But look, they want to secure the border and make sure people from Cuba who lean to the right don't get in. So I think their hypocrisy is shameful.
Thanks so much for being with us. Good luck, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Buck.